Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Tuesday, the 14th of October. With McShane, we read 1 Kings chapter 17 today, and we're introduced to Elijah, who just appears and tells the king there's going to be a drought. There'll be no rain for the foreseeable future. And in verse 2 of the chapter, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan. You will drink water from the brook, and I have instructed the ravens to supply you with food there." Now I read that, I thought, drink water from the brook, that kind of makes sense. Ravens, that's a big ask. I'm not sure I would find that quite so easy to get my head around. But verse 5, so he did what the Lord told him. And that is indeed what happened. There was water in the brook which he could drink, and day by day that the ravens brought food. When the brook dried up, he was told, now go to Zarephath, and you can stay with a widow there. So he's sending him not to some other town in Judah or Israel, sending him to a foreign town. And you'll go and stay not with the mayor of the town or some great individual, but with a widow. And when he gets there, he finds the widow, and the widow is poverty-stricken. She's using the very last of her resources, the last bit of flour and oil, to make a loaf of bread for herself and her son, which they'll eat, and they then face starvation. And Elijah says to her, that's fine, but first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have, and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. Again, this remarkable instruction, which will take a huge amount of faith to follow through on, that this jar of oil, and she knows there's just this tiny little bit of oil left, and the flour, there's enough for one loaf of bread, and that's what she's going to make. She knows how much there is, and Elijah says, no, it's not going to run out. Oh, I'm not so sure about that. At verse 15, she went away and did as Elijah told her. And what God had promised came to pass exactly, and she was provided for the length of the drought. And as I read that, I thought, wonderful illustrations of people being challenged to do what doesn't make sense. And today we're challenged in the same way, not to go and hide in a ravine or to use the last bit of flour and it'll just keep going. But God does tell us to do things which we look at and we think, I'm not sure about that. Somebody does something to you and then, oh, I'm so sorry. And God says, no, forgive them. I said, but they have a history of doing this. And God says, yeah, but forgive them anyway. Or there's some person and you think, oh, that person, and God says, love them. Say, love them? They're my enemy. Yes, love them, says God. And he tells us, I want you to tell people about me. And say, but they don't want to hear. They poo-poo about my faith. They sideline me. And God says, no, but just share. And we do get God telling us to do things today, which on a plain human material level doesn't actually make sense. But I haven't met anybody that has done what God has told them and looked back and said, oh, that was a big mistake, I shouldn't have done that. Whenever we obey God, as Elijah did, as the widow did, when we obey God and follow through on what he tells us to do, God is faithful. So be encouraged in the midst of turmoil in life and in society where things are so uncertain. Let us walk with God. Let us look to him, hear him, and obey him, because that way we know he provides for us. Be blessed.